Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. It is Match Preview Thursday. So today we will be previewing our weekend fixture against Leicester at St James Park. But before we get into all that, I am your host today. So that is me, Nicola, and I feel so alien because I've not been on all week. So this is my first one in a week. And I am joined by two incredible guests. So the first one is the Mr. Lovely Iain Mackay. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Nicola. And don't worry, you might be feeling alien, but you look human enough to me.
I don't feel it. Thank you. And our second guest is Michael Grahamslaw. How are you?
Very good, Nicola. Thank you very much.
Good. Right. So obviously, I know you guys have all been into it and you've all probably spoke about it, but I have not because I've not been here. Well, I've not been on the pod this week. So I thought we could spend the first part of this pod just talking about how genuinely we are feeling going into our weekend fixture after last weekend's performance. Obviously, I know we all had quite a lot to say in the group chat over the weekend and the course of the week about the state of the fan base because we seem to have got some in one camp, some in other camps. So I just thought we could quickly spend sort of the first 10 minutes talking about how we're feeling, what we're expecting, and how we think we'll probably approach the game on Saturday. So Iain, I'll come to you first. How are we feeling now we're sort of over the Brentford game and we've had time to digest that feeling? How are we feeling?
Well, I'm feeling all right. I'm expecting the team that played Liverpool. They're back at St James's Park. I don't think the Brentford game was. I mean, it was really disappointing, but I don't think it was on a par with how we played at Crystal Palace or the toothlessness that we showed against West Ham. Because Brentford are a very good home side. And I know we were in it 2-2 at half time, but nobody really could have complained if we weren't 2 or 3 goals ahead after that first half, because we actually played really well going forward. Just 2 stupid mistakes at the back that their very good strikers took advantage of. So I'm hoping that there have been several rockets put up several bottoms, particularly in the back four. Maybe he's going to bring Trippier in to get a little bit more leadership at the back and drop Tino, because he was absolute pants against Brentford.
Yep.
But I'm feeling quite up. I think this is where Newcastle bounce back. They will have laid out on the line. Bruno did straight after the game, and from what Kev had heard, there were some harsh words said by Bruno to some of his teammates in the dressing room after the game. I would hope that would mean that there's a line being drawn, and they are going to put the effort in against all of the Premier League teams they face, not just the top 6.
Lovely. Michael?
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I'm in a better place than I was after the game against Brentford. That's for sure. We've touched on it. Newcastle first half quite good. Newcastle second half pretty much non-existent. Forest Hall Juniors might as well have been on the pitch that day. Didn't go well. For anyone that doesn't know, that's a local kids team. But yeah, it wasn't great. But I think it's one of those. Every team has those kind of games. We've just had them a little bit more regularly than others at the moment. But going into the weekend's game, I am confident that we'll put it behind us against Leicester, who obviously themselves have got something to prove under Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yeah,
See,
Leicester on... go on, Iain.
The team, I was going to say, the team will be just as gutted about playing as badly as they have, as unexpectedly as they have. I think they all want to achieve. They want to win every game. So with a new focus, etc., they've actually will have seen they've got a really good run of games, I think, to put right the mistakes of earlier in the season, to win a semi-final place in the Carabao Cup, and then they get some fun games against the top 6 teams, which should if they won 2 or 3 matches in a row going into them, they'd fancy themselves in all of those games against Man U and Villa and Tottenham. So yeah,
Agreed.
I'm up. If they're rubbish, of course, then I won't be.
I touched on it with a friend over, I don't know if it was the week after the weekend or over the week, about the Brentford performance and how I was like not concerned, but I was almost baffled as to how we were turning up against, the top six, and I'm putting that in inverted commas. We seem to be turning up against the top six teams, but then almost like struggling against teams that we shouldn't be expected to be struggling against. And obviously, then I logged onto social media and seen social media was an absolute uproar. And you had the hashtag Eddie out circulating, and then you had the other camp saying, give him time, give him, and his patience and things like that, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I think he, with the right sort of time and patience, I think he can turn it around. Obviously, my only concern is the next run of games that we've got are arguably probably not an easier run, but an easier than normal run. And I think, and I'm hoping, and I am confident that we can sort of turn it around and the fan base can just chill out ever so slightly. So obviously, we've got Leicester this weekend, and then obviously next Wednesday we have Brentford at home in the Carabao Cup. We've then got Ipswich, we've then got Aston Villa, and we've then got Man United, and that's all in for the rest of December. And then obviously we go into the new year. So my question is, and Kev's not going to like listening to this, so I apologise to him now, but when do you guys think is an acceptable time? And I apologise if someone's already asked you this on another pod, but when do you guys think would be an acceptable time within reason and obviously in our season to be questioning Eddie Howe? And I'm not sat here questioning him. I'm just putting the question of, if we have the next, say, 6 games of a bad run, is that acceptable enough to be questioning Mr. Howe himself? Or do we think the problem lies a little bit deeper than that? Michael, hit me.
I think you can question a manager at any time. Even Pep Guardiola's getting questioned at the minute, and he's absolutely fantastic. However, what you also have to take into consideration is sort of the context behind it all. I mentioned on a podcast earlier in the week, when we finished 5th under Pardew, we didn't build on it and we nearly got relegated. And it almost feels like since we finished 4th, obviously we brought in Barnes, we brought in Tonali, but we haven't really strengthened the squad to a point of, right, we're going to push all the way. Eddie Howe, we're going to back you, and we're going to try and get the Champions League again and again and again. Now, the reason for that is obviously PSR, and they've got those kind of issues. It does seem like we'll have to sell someone big to buy in the future, but I think it's one of those where this is the first season where we've not really had any real scrutiny of, the first season, nearly getting relegated. First full season, wow, they're so much better than anyone would expect. They're going to drop off at some point.
Yeah.
Second full season, should I say? Injuries galore. This season, there hasn't really been anything, and we are struggling a little bit. It's almost as if now the world's not against Newcastle, or it doesn't feel that way as much. We're not doing as well, which is weird because that's how the fan base has always sort of felt. There's something against us, but I think we can look at it and go, Leicester, Brentford, Ipswich. If you don't win 2 of those, I think you're in a position there where you go, people are going to really start turning on Eddie Howe. And the big one there is the Brentford at home. Brentford haven't beaten anyone away from home this season, and it comes a case of, if the first time that they do is to knock us out of the League Cup when we're this close to a semi-final, or potentially a final again, I think people will start questioning them then, probably. And I've said for about a month now, questions will be asked, but the conversation's there to be had. Yeah. We're not saying sack him right now. It's just what's the best way to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I also will, just before anyone comes for me, I do wholeheartedly agree that Eddie was not backed properly within the summer transfer window. So this isn't me sitting here saying, I think he should go, because I don't think he should go. My question was, when is the most acceptable time to maybe start raising questions about the manager? I'm certainly not right now, and I will always stand with him. And obviously, as we all say, like, the memories he's given us, etc. He's been unbelievable. He's 10 players round, and he's been fantastic for us. But that was my question. Iain, anything to add? I feel like I'm going to get loads of fans coming for me this week.
I agree with Michael. You can question, and we have questioned at all times, different things that the manager has done. Whether he's the right man to lead us forward. I mean, forget Brentford. The game before that was an absolutely wonderful performance against Liverpool.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So his
Yes.
tactics were great then.
Yep.
And honestly, don't think you can blame Eddie Howe for the ineptitude shown by our defenders.
No, of course
Fantastic
not.
through ball played by Harvey Barnes straight onto
Mhm.
Wissa's foot. Fabian Schär looking at the ball coming into the box from the goalkeeper's punt up from a halfway line like it's some sort of helium balloon and never going to come down, and then suddenly it does, and he's still watching it. I mean, that's not Eddie Howe's fault.
No,
I
of
think
course not.
he has earned the right, because I do think that he's been let down by not being able to refresh the side in the
Yep.
last two transfer windows. I think he's earned the right to get backed, however they do it in this January. Let him sell 2 or 3 players, bring 2 or 3 players in. We're still close enough if we can pick up a win and a draw against Leicester and Ipswich to go on a run and get up to be challenging into those European places in the second half of the season.
Yep.
I think give him some back and set him a target. Tell him,
Yeah, I
you've got
agree.
150 million quid that you're going to spend, but you've got to finish 6th or above, or 4th or above, whatever that target is.
Yeah.
And then everybody knows where they stand. There's a good run for him to be able to fix things, and maybe him and Tyndall will get a little bit more direct in encouraging some of our in and out players, Anthony
100%.
Gordon, Fabian Schär, and the rest of you. You know who you are.
I agree. I would quite like to see him backed in the upcoming transfer window. I almost don't like, and this is just my personal opinion, I almost don't like the feeling that he's sort of been set up to fail a little bit with not the right backing. But I know obviously PSR and all that comes into it. So I'm not even going to get into that because this leads nicely into part 2. But first, we will take a quick break for one of our sponsors. And I think the first one's being read out by Michael.
It is indeed. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we've spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out a clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Lovely, Michael. That was very professionally read.
As always.
Very passionate read. Thank you. Right. I know I said we're reviewing the Leicester game, but I think it's only right that we spend part 2 covering off a little bit of news that came out. Was it today or yesterday? Can't remember. About none other than Mr. Callum Wilson. Come on. He has played half an hour and he is now out with a hamstring injury, I think it is. You just can't write it for him, can you? First of all, I just want to say I know no one is going to be more frustrated than Callum, and he's obviously come out and said he's frustrated, and obviously I totally 100% understand that mentally he is going to be feeling a certain type of way about it. However, for us Newcastle fans, and obviously the Newcastle squad, it isn't the best of news, and this constant rotation of he's fit, he's not fit, he's fit, he's not fit, seems to be never ending, and it's every season at the minute. Obviously, it's every season, and he misses majority of the season all the time. My question to you both is: obviously, his contract's up in the summer. My other opinion is it's probably not going to be renewed, but God be my judge, it potentially may be, but I don't think it will. And obviously we have Isak, who again, obviously we love, also doesn't have the best track sort of injury record. He's sort of up and down with injury every so often. And then obviously we have Mr. Osula, who's obviously been struggling for minutes. Will it be January or the summer? Let me know. Where we think we will potentially look for a new striker. What is your guys' view on that? Iain, I will come to you. I feel really sad that I'm talking about Mr. Wilson leaving Newcastle.
Yeah, poor Callum. But I mean, when does Callum Wilson give up and say I'm retiring?
I know.
Because if we're honest, we've seen him come back, and we've said it's too early, and he's tweaked it and gone back out again for
Yeah.
different times of the last couple of years. This time, This time he wasn't even injured for a while, was he? He just wasn't quite ready to play a match. I think he
Yep.
had an extra two months.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, if that means he's properly over it, good. We get the whole of the second half of the season out of him. But you're absolutely right. What is it? 2 15-minute cameos he's played and crocked for another 2 months, by the way, which means he's still going to be injured at the end of the January transfer window. So we ain't going to sell him. I don't know. I don't know what you do with him. We obviously just have to put him to one side. I don't know if he comes back and plays in the new year. Can't see how they would ever want to renew a contract because he's on a lot of money.
Yeah.
When do we replace him? That depends on how good we are at trading. I suspect Eddie's not completely innocent in not being able to cope with PSR because I think this time last year he had offers on the table for Miggy Almiron, Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson, but he wouldn't let any of them go. So he sort of hoisted
Hindered
by
us.
his own petard there, really. He knows he
Yeah.
can't do that now. It depends how they trade. I think if they can get rid of Harvey Barnes, for example, and afford to spend decent money, that should be on a right winger. Because I hear what you're saying about Isak. I think it's harsh to go after his injury record this season because he broke his toe, which
Oh yeah, I
anyone
get that.
can do. It's not a muscular thing or a recurring thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd go right winger for sure. If we can trade some more out, then probably centre half even, because I think Fabian Schär is about to fail his MOT and end up getting scrapped. Sorry, Kev.
Don't talk about my Fabian Schär like
And
that.
then, yeah, we need a backup striker. But I do think that he will rely on Anthony Gordon down the middle because
Mm.
he's sure that's a good position for him. I want to see Osula get more minutes. I want him to trust Osula. He looks good.
Yeah,
The
he
bits
does.
we've seen, and he won't let him come on. And then who else is in those under 23s? Ben Parkinson, I mentioned, is in great form for the under 23s at the moment, and he was used last year during the injury crisis. So he's got some experience, and he was trusted enough. Then, I think if you need to protect Isak, then protect him
Yeah, of course.
by using the young lads. Some of them might
What we've got.
just surprise you. You never know.
Yeah, I completely agree. Michael, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wilson, unfortunately, his time with Newcastle is up. But I don't think we'll replace him with anyone in January purely because, as Iain said, he's out for 2 months. So he's back in that awkward period where if you replace him, he's just sitting there on 100 grand or something a week. I think it's 90 actually.
Has it been said it's 2 months? I've just thought it's a little. I've not seen how many months he's out for. I just had a little
I haven't
setback.
seen the official time frame, but just take
Yeah,
money and send that.
yeah,
But yeah, it's one of those where if that is how long he's out for, then unfortunately we're going to be in a situation where we're probably not going to be able to replace him. And there was talks of Evan Ferguson on loan from not from Brentford, got them on the brain on from Brighton. And then there was also talks of Kulo Mayani from PSG, who I can't see wanting to let go on loan
yeah.
unless it had a permanent, and that permanent would very likely probably involve Alexander Isak going the other way. So not a fan of that one either. But yeah, I think we talk a little bit as well about Eddie Howe and we're trading and stuff like that. But it's worth noting with Almiron, the 20 million bid we had was from Saudi. Didn't want to go there. He wants to either go to South America again or back to the MLS. It seems like River Plate is the most likely destination in Argentina. So we should get a little bit off him there. But Trippier, I think, is the one where realistically we should have sold. Now we don't. But now we're looking ahead to the Leicester game and we're going, well, Tino was absolutely dreadful. So let's ship Trippier back in. So it's a hard one because any player that we get rid of in January, there's going to be people in February saying, "Oh well, we could have used them here. We needed them in this game against." Trying to think off the top of my head, Everton away. We needed Harvey. No, we've played Everton away. Southampton away. We needed Harvey Barnes to break them down. It's like, well, actually, we've sold him, got some money in now. So whatever he does, he's not going to get any player praise or plaudits whatsoever. Anyhow, so it's going to be a difficult one for him. But what can you do?
Yeah, no matter what he does, I'm afraid, I think he's going to be up against a little bit of. He'll always have them fans that are, well, if we had this person, it would be fine. But I've got I've got trust in the club that if we obviously sell the right players, obviously there's no right player to sell. What I'm trying to say is if we sell players and offload, I've come across really bad there. If we offload players, I just want that money to be invested and spent wisely. If you know what I mean. So, like, look at Villa. Obviously, they offloaded Grealish, and he's obviously ruined his career by going to Man City. But, they've invested that money, and now look at them. They're obviously, I mean, I know obviously their Premier League campaign's a little bit up and down, but they're flying a little bit, aren't they? So I just want that money to be invested wisely. That's my problem. Iain, I'm sure that's the same for everyone, but.
Yeah, I was going to say it might be for a different podcast to discuss, but is it time to just bite the bullet? Let Arsenal have Isak on the 1st of January and collect 110 million off them,
Could well be.
and spend all month bringing 3 new first teamers in.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see Alexander Isak go, but then
We all would.
I hated watching Beardsley leave, Gascoigne leave, Waddle leave, Malcolm MacDonald leave. Oh God! As an 8-year-old, I cried buckets when Malcolm MacDonald left, and then kept coming back with Arsenal and scoring against us. But it's football, isn't it? It's football.
Yeah.
I think whoever you get rid of first for 100 million, I'd say do it and invest the cash. And if 2 of them
100%.
go, brilliant. That's 6 new first teamers we've got. That'll shake up the rest of the squad.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
And, just to add something on William Masula as well, I think Eddie Howe was starting to trust him. And then that game against AFC Wimbledon happened where all of us were there. And to a man, the team were dreadful. But you look at that as William Masula as, that's your chance to make an impact. And to be honest, he wasn't good at all. So I imagine he'll get the same treatment against Bromley.
That's so harsh, that, Michael. So harsh, because Asula was running all of the time. He was so close to actually scoring as well. But it was the rest of the team couldn't put 2 passes together to open up. He's a big centre forward. He's reliant on the service that he gets, and that was what was crap. It wasn't his willingness or his effort. I think you were being really harsh then. Do you remember when Crafu went on the run was it against Arsenal and knocked the ball
Chelsea.
for him against Chelsea? And he came back inside and just hit the base of the post. That's what he can do if you give him a chance. Think faster than the centre half, and be past him and shot.
Oh yeah, he seems to do. He did okay in cup games for Sheffield United. He looked good against Chelsea when he came on. But I think when you look at his minutes, that seems to have been the moment where his minutes went from growing to starting to dwindle a little bit more. And it is a shame, because I think with with a lot of time invested in him, he could be a solid Premier League player. I'm not saying he'll be Alexander Isak or Callum Wilson, but he could be solid. And let's be honest, I mentioned before the podcast, Matty Longstaff was put in against Man United. Look at Matty Longstaff now. He wasn't good enough for the Premier League, but he put in man of the match performances in like 3 times in 6 games. So as Iain said earlier, just give the young'uns a chance. They might surprise you.
Yeah. Well, that was a good little debate. I enjoyed that. I think we'll end part 2 there, because I could talk about this subject for about an hour. We will go to our second and final sponsor, which will be read out by Iain, please.
Yeah, we're going old school with the old school Global Sports Podcast Network. But like Jamie Vardy, this is enduring and still has a great message, still packs a punch. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
Hey, it is a good advert, isn't it?
Lovely and professional, as always. Right, guys, we've slightly ran over. We've probably got about 5-6 minutes to cram in a
Half
quick
an hour.
preview of Leicester. Sort of what we're expecting, and by that I mean what challenges do we think we will face against Leicester? What do we think they're going to bring? And we'll put in our score predictions. So I will start with yourself. Players to watch out for from Leicester, and sort of how we're feeling genuinely going into it, and then your score prediction.
Yeah, I think Leicester under Ruud van Nistelrooy, it's going to be a different proposition than what we are maybe expecting. It'll be a harder game than many are expecting. But what I will say is they've played 3 games under Ruud so far. 2 at home, won both of those. The away game, they got absolutely demolished off Brentford. And you thought the second half for Newcastle was bad against Brentford. That was the whole game for Leicester. So their away form hasn't looked like improving at all. It's just been one game. But one player that I do know we'll have to look out for is Facundo Buonanotte, on loan from Brighton. He looked absolutely fantastic under Steve Cooper, and I can just imagine under a more attacking coach such as Ruud van Nistelrooy. Yeah, there's things Ruud van Nistelrooy knows about football that he'll forgotten more than I'll ever know. So what he'll be able to teach that young lad will be fantastic. But they're attacking 3 overall. Alcunis, James Mackay, and Buonanotte will all be very dangerous. We'll need our midfield on top form to do anything. But I think, realistically, St James's Park, under the lights, got something to prove. We should be looking for I'm going to say a 3-1 win.
Oh, you've done an Iain.
Eat
I can agree. I can agree.
Iain, swiftly
Yes.
onto you.
Is Canusa the Moroccan guy?
I'm not sure on the nationality, but
Anyway,
Belgium.
there's a right.
Oh no, he is
there's
Moroccan. He was born in
Moroccan.
Belgium, but he does play for Morocco. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I don't know that.
Kev had spotted him and thought that he looked really good. Yeah, the Ruud van Nistelrooy new manager bounce may that continue. Jamie Vardy,
likes a party.
evergreen Jamie Vardy. He's nearly 38. I think it's 38 in a month, but he's still really, really quick. And Dan Burn and Fabian Schär aren't. So we certainly have to look for him. But on the plus side, Connor Cody and God, what's the other guy called?
Vestergaard.
Yeah.
Vestergaard. Yeah, I mean, they're not quick either, are they? Let's be fair.
No.
And Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak are. So I think there'll be a lot of goals. I learned last night that Leicester have only ever kept 1 clean sheet all season. But then there's also only 1 game that they've failed to score in. So I think goals will be there. I'm sure the Rockets have been up those boys' bottoms so that we will be on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right out on a limb and say Newcastle will win 5-2, and Alexander Isak will be the first Newcastle centre forward to score a hat-trick since Michael Owen. Or was it Iosi Perez? Anyway, for a long time, an Isak hat-trick. 5-2. There we go.
God, we're going bold. Yeah, I agree. I think it will start out a tough game, and I think it will be a bit of a tougher game than what most are expecting. I never like to sort of underestimate Leicester, and obviously, as we've already discussed, new manager bounce is a real thing. But I honestly think, and I agree with Iain and obviously you, Michael, but I honestly think them lads have had it given to them after the Brentford game from Mr. Eddie Howe, and I think they will be sort of coming out with a bit of a point to prove. And like we say, St. James Park, under the lights, it's going to be bouncing. So I am also going for, well, not also because no one's guessed it, but I'm actually going for a 4-1 Newcastle. I think we're going to, lots of goals. I think it's going to be lots of goals.
We're expecting some goals, aren't we?
Yeah. And every time I say
0-0 or 1-0 Leicester now.
yeah. In the 90th minute.
Nicola, you don't get overexcited when you're watching Newcastle and they score, do they? Because I'm sitting next to you in this game, I think.
We are, yeah, we're sitting together. Yeah,
Yes.
I do get
So
overexcited.
if we score 5 times, I'm going to have to bring a crash helmet.
What if Leicester score 5 times? Don't
I'm
put the
getting
cameras
out
on
of
you.
No.
Yeah,
See you at the Strawberry at 4:00.
absolutely.
Yes. So yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, I think we'll leave that there then. So obviously, thank you both for joining, and thank you everyone for listening. And we will be back on Monday with a brand new episode, and hopefully reviewing our 5-2 or 4-2 or 3-1 win against Leicester.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.